If you like this story, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next exciting stories. And now let's enjoy the story. When a ruthless biker kicked a dog for fun, he was completely unaware that Keanu Reeves was the owner. What started as a peaceful afternoon walk would soon escalate into a dramatic confrontation, proving once again that you should never mess with a man's dog. It was a warm afternoon in Brooklyn Heights. The streets were alive with the hum of daily life. Children playing, couples strolling, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafting from nearby cafes. Keanu Reeves had decided to take Buddy, a well-trained and lovable pit bull, for a walk during a break from the film set of John Wick. While Buddy was technically part of the production, Keanu had grown increasingly attached to him during their time working together. The walk wasn't just a way to escape the chaos of the set. It was an opportunity to bond with the four-legged co-star who had already stolen his heart. As they walked, Keanu spoke softly to Buddy. "You know you're not just a movie star," he said, a warm smile playing on his lips. "You're my buddy. Fitting name, huh?" Buddy wagged his tail in response, his tongue lolling out in the heat. Keanu chuckled and patted the dog's head gently. He had grown to love the dog's playful energy and unwavering loyalty. They rounded a corner near a quiet cafe when it happened. A loud, mocking laugh broke through the calm atmosphere, drawing Keanu's attention. A group of bikers, clad in leather jackets and boots, stood outside a bar across the street. One of them, a burly man with a cruel sneer, had kicked Buddy in the side as the dog sniffed curiously near the sidewalk. Buddy yelped in pain and stumbled back, his tail tucking between his legs. Keanu's easy demeanor shifted in an instant. His warm, kind eyes hardened into a glare as he stepped protectively in front of Buddy, who was still trembling from the unexpected attack. The biker smirked, clearly entertained by his own actions. "Control your mutt," he jeered, his voice dripping with contempt. Keanu knelt beside Buddy, his hands gentle as he checked the dog for injuries. "It's okay, boy," he murmured softly, stroking Buddy's fur to calm him down. Buddy whimpered but leaned into Keanu's touch, finding comfort in his presence. "You're all right. I've got you." Standing back up, Keanu faced the biker, his voice low but firm. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he asked, his tone carrying a quiet menace that silenced the surrounding chatter. The biker shrugged nonchalantly, his smirk widening. "Just a stupid dog. Not like it matters." Keanu's jaw tightened. He wasn't a man prone to violence off-screen, but the biker's callous disregard for Buddy's well-being ignited something primal within him. Still, he forced himself to stay calm. "He's not just a dog," Keanu said, his voice steady. "He's my friend, and I suggest you walk away before this gets worse for you." The biker laughed, a harsh, grating sound, and took a step forward, clearly trying to intimidate Keanu. But before the situation could escalate further, Buddy let out a low growl, standing protectively by Keanu's side. The sound was enough to make the biker pause, his confidence faltering for a moment. Keanu looked down at Buddy, a faint smile returning to his face despite the tension in the air. "Good boy," he said softly, giving the dog an encouraging pat. Turning back to the biker, Keanu's expression hardened once more. "Leave now." Sensing that the crowd gathering nearby was no longer on his side, the biker sneered one last time before retreating with his friends into the bar. Keanu watched them go, his shoulders relaxing slightly but his guard still up. He knelt down again, his hands cupping Buddy's face as he inspected him more closely. "You okay, Buddy?" he asked gently. Buddy licked Keanu's hand in response, his tail wagging slightly despite the ordeal. Keanu smiled, his heart swelling with affection for the brave dog. "You're tougher than I thought," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "But let's get you some water and make sure you're really all right." With that, Keanu stood, guiding Buddy towards a nearby water fountain. Despite the tense encounter, his focus remained entirely on Buddy, ensuring the dog felt safe and cared for. As they walked away, the bond between them grew even stronger, setting the stage for the challenges that lay ahead. The afternoon sun hung high in the sky, its rays beating down on the busy streets of Brooklyn Heights. Keanu Reeves and Buddy had found a small park nearby, a peaceful refuge from the earlier confrontation. The park was shaded by tall, leafy trees, offering relief from the relentless heat. A few families sat on benches, while children played on swings and slides. It was the perfect place to give Buddy a moment to recuperate. Keanu guided Buddy to a quiet spot under a tree. He pulled out the collapsible silicone water container he had brought along and filled it with cool water from a nearby fountain. "Here you go, boy," Keanu said, setting the bowl down. Buddy lapped eagerly at the water, his earlier distress melting away as he drank. Keanu crouched beside him, watching with a soft smile. "You're a tough guy, aren't you?" Keanu said, his tone warm and reassuring. Buddy's ears perked up at the sound of his voice, and he looked up at Keanu with big, trusting eyes. Keanu couldn't help but chuckle. "You don't let anything keep you down for long, huh?" Buddy finished drinking and wagged his tail, nudging Keanu's hand with his nose. Taking the hint, Keanu scratched behind Buddy's ears, his touch gentle and affectionate. "You know," he began, his voice quiet, "I've always been more of a cat person. But you're changing my mind." The two sat there for a while, enjoying the serenity of the park. Keanu pulled out a tennis ball from his jacket pocket, one of the many items he had packed for their outing. He held it up, catching Buddy's attention. "What do you say, Buddy? Want to play?" Buddy's tail wagged furiously in response, his entire body vibrating with excitement. Keanu grinned and tossed the ball a short distance. Buddy sprang into action, his powerful legs propelling him forward as he chased after the ball. Watching Buddy run, Keanu felt a deep sense of contentment. Despite everything that had happened earlier, this moment felt pure and untainted. When Buddy returned with the ball clamped securely in his jaws, Keanu praised him enthusiastically. "Good boy. Look at you, already a star athlete." He ruffled Buddy's fur, eliciting a happy bark from the dog. They repeated the game a few more times, each throw easing the tension that lingered from the encounter with the biker. As the minutes passed, Keanu couldn't help but marvel at how much he cared for Buddy. Initially, he had volunteered to walk the dog as a way to bond for their scenes in John Wick. But now, it was more than that. Buddy wasn't just a co-star. He was a companion, a loyal friend who brought out a side of Keanu he hadn't fully explored before. After a while, Keanu noticed Buddy panting heavily again, the heat beginning to take its toll. "All right, that's enough excitement for now," Keanu said, clipping Buddy's leash back on. "Let's find somewhere cooler to rest." They strolled through the park, taking their time. Keanu spotted a small cafe with an outdoor seating area shaded by umbrellas. It looked like the perfect place to grab a drink and let Buddy cool off. He led Buddy to one of the tables, tying the leash to the leg of the chair before sitting down. A friendly waitress approached them, her face lighting up when she saw Buddy. "What a handsome dog," she exclaimed, crouching down to give him a scratch behind the ears. Buddy wagged his tail enthusiastically, clearly enjoying the attention. "He's a good boy," Keanu said with a smile, his pride in Buddy evident. "Could we get some water for him? And a coffee for me?" "Of course," the waitress replied, quickly returning with a fresh bowl of water for Buddy and a steaming cup of coffee for Keanu. As Buddy drank, Keanu sipped his coffee, enjoying the brief respite. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Keanu leaned back in his chair, watching Buddy happily lapping at the water. But as he glanced around, his gaze fell on a familiar figure across the street. A biker with a leather vest, the same insignia as the man who had kicked Buddy earlier. Keanu's relaxed demeanor tensed. He reached down to give Buddy a reassuring pat, his mind already racing. Something told him the day's challenges were far from over. Keanu's sharp eyes remained fixed on the biker across the street. The man leaned casually against his motorcycle, smoking a cigarette, his eyes scanning the area with a calculating glint. Keanu recognized the insignia on the man's leather vest, a snarling tiger with extended claws. It matched the one worn by the biker who had attacked Buddy earlier. Keanu instinctively leaned down, his hand resting on Buddy's head. The dog was still enjoying the cool water, oblivious to the tension building in Keanu's chest. "Stay close, boy," Keanu murmured softly, his protective instincts kicking in. Buddy looked up at him, his expressive eyes radiating trust. The waitress, Maggie, returned with Keanu's order, a small plate with a sandwich. She smiled warmly, unaware of the potential danger lurking nearby. "Anything else I can get you?" she asked. Keanu shook his head politely. We're good, thank you. He didn't want to draw attention to the situation, but he kept his senses alert. As Maggie left, Keanu noticed the biker putting out his cigarette and crossing the street, his gait casual yet deliberate. The man approached the cafe patio, his eyes landing on Buddy. Keanu's jaw tightened, his body tensing as he prepared to intervene. The biker stopped a few feet away, pulling a piece of sausage from his pocket. "Nice dog," the man said with a smirk, his voice laced with mockery. He crouched slightly, holding out the sausage toward Buddy. "Here, boy. You look hungry." Buddy, ever trusting, sniffed the air and wagged his tail. But Keanu's instincts screamed that something was wrong. He stood quickly, placing himself between Buddy and the man. "Don't," Keanu said firmly, his voice low and commanding. "Step back." The biker's smirk widened, clearly enjoying the tension. "Relax, man." "Just being friendly," he said, dropping the sausage onto the ground near Buddy's paws before walking away with a casual shrug. Keanu watched him closely, his fists clenching at his sides. Something about the encounter left a bitter taste in his mouth. Buddy sniffed the sausage curiously, but Keanu quickly pulled him back. "No, Buddy," he said firmly, grabbing a napkin to pick up the sausage. Examining it closely, Keanu noticed something unusual, an oily residue coating the meat. His heart sank as realization hit him. This wasn't an innocent gesture. It was a deliberate act of cruelty. At that moment, Buddy began to cough, his body convulsing slightly. Panic gripped Keanu as he knelt beside the dog, gently holding his head. "Buddy, stay with me, boy," he said urgently. Buddy whimpered, his breathing labored. Keanu's mind raced, his calm demeanor giving way to sheer determination. He had to act fast. "Water!" Keanu called out to Maggie, who rushed over, alarmed by the urgency in his voice. "I need water, now!" Maggie handed him a bottle, and Keanu carefully poured some into Buddy's mouth, trying to help him flush out whatever was causing the reaction. But it wasn't enough. Buddy needed medical attention immediately. "We need a vet," Keanu said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. Maggie nodded quickly, pointing down the street. "There's a clinic 3 blocks from here. Take a left at the intersection. You can't miss it." Without wasting another second, Keanu scooped Buddy into his arms. The dog was heavy, but adrenaline gave Keanu the strength to carry him as he sprinted through the crowded streets of Brooklyn Heights. Bystanders turned to stare, some recognizing the famous actor, but Keanu paid them no mind. His entire focus was on Buddy, who was growing weaker with each passing second. "Hang in there, Buddy," Keanu said, his voice breaking slightly. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you." Finally, the veterinary clinic came into view, its white facade and Blue Cross sign standing out like a beacon of hope. Keanu burst through the doors, his voice urgent and hoarse. "Please, I need help. My dog's been poisoned." The staff sprang into action immediately. A veterinarian, Dr. Harper, took charge, guiding Keanu to an examination room. "Put him on the table," she instructed, her tone calm yet authoritative. Keanu gently placed Buddy on the cold metal surface, his hands lingering on the dog's fur as he stepped back to give the medical team space. "What happened?" Dr. Harper asked as she worked quickly to assess Buddy's condition. Keanu recounted the events at the cafe, his voice tight with emotion. "Someone fed him something. A sausage. It looked like it was coated in something toxic." Dr. Harper nodded, her brow furrowing. "We'll do everything we can," she assured him. "It looks like poisoning. We'll need to flush his system and run blood tests to identify the substance." Keanu watched helplessly as the team worked on Buddy, administering activated charcoal and setting up an IV to stabilize him. He clenched his fists, his frustration and worry mounting. How could someone be so cruel? And why had the biker targeted Buddy in the first place? Dr. Harper turned to Keanu, her expression serious but reassuring. "He's stable for now, but it's critical we identify what he ingested. We're running tests and we'll keep him under observation." Keanu nodded, his voice thick with gratitude. "Thank you, doctor. Just save him, please." As Keanu stepped out into the waiting room, his phone buzzed. It was the director from the John Wick set calling to check in. Keanu explained the situation briefly, his voice strained. The director, understanding the gravity of the situation, assured him they would reschedule the shoot if necessary. Sitting down, Keanu buried his face in his hands. The memory of Buddy's trusting eyes haunted him. He had promised to protect the dog, and now Buddy's life hung in the balance. But as he looked up, his resolve hardened. Whoever had done this would pay, not out of vengeance, but out of justice for Buddy and the innocent lives the biker gang had likely harmed before. The clinic's waiting room was quiet, save for the muffled sounds of other animals being treated in the background. Keanu sat in a chair near the corner, his hands clasped tightly together, his mind replaying the events at the cafe over and over. Buddy was still in the treatment area, fighting off the effects of the poisoning, and all Keanu could do was wait. A nurse emerged briefly, bringing him an update. "Dr. Harper is running tests to pinpoint the toxins," she said gently. "Buddy is stable for now, but it's good you brought him in so quickly." That made a big difference. Keanu nodded, offering a quiet thank you. As she walked away, his attention turned to his phone. The memory of the biker's smug grin burned in his mind. This wasn't just an act of cruelty. It felt personal. The insignia on the biker's vest had been the same as the group lingering outside the bar earlier, iron and ash. Keanu's instincts told him this wasn't a coincidence. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a contact. Hank Morrison, an old friend and a sheriff who specialized in handling tough situations like this. Keanu tapped the name and waited as the line rang. "Hank," Keanu said when the call connected, his voice low and urgent. "I need your help." Hank's tone was calm but serious. "What's going on?" Keanu quickly recounted the day's events, the biker's attack on Buddy, the poisoned sausage, and the group he'd seen outside the bar. "I'm at the veterinary clinic now," Keanu added, glancing toward the treatment area. "Buddy's stable, but this wasn't an accident. I'm sure the biker and his group were behind it. There's something dangerous going on here." Hank listened carefully before responding. "Keanu, you've got good instincts, and I trust you on this. Give me the name of the bar and any details you remember. I'll mobilize a team and look into it." Keanu gave Hank the name Iron and Ash and described the insignia he'd seen on the biker's vest. Hank assured him he would act quickly, but warned Keanu not to confront the group directly. "Let us handle this," Hank said firmly. "You've done your part. Focus on Buddy." After ending the call, Keanu leaned back in his chair, his resolve firm. He trusted Hank to bring justice, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his involvement wasn't over yet. Not long after, Dr. Harper emerged from the treatment area, her expression serious but not grim. Keanu stood immediately, his heart pounding. "How is he?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Harper offered a small, reassuring smile. "Buddy is stable," she said. "We've identified the toxins, a combination of narcotics and rat poison. It's a dangerous mix, but the activated charcoal and IV fluids are working to flush his system. He'll need close monitoring for the next 24 hours, but I'm optimistic about his recovery." Keanu exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Can I see him?" Dr. Harper nodded and led him to Buddy's recovery area. The dog lay on a soft bed, connected to monitors and an IV. His breathing was slow but steady, and when he saw Keanu, his tail gave a weak wag. "Hey, Buddy," Keanu said softly, kneeling beside him. He gently stroked Buddy's fur, his touch light but comforting. "You're a fighter, you know that? You scared me back there." Buddy let out a soft whimper, his eyes half-lidded but full of trust. Keanu smiled despite the lump in his throat. "We're not done yet," he said quietly. "We've got a lot of adventures ahead of us, so you focus on getting better." As Keanu sat with Buddy, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Hank. "On our way to Iron and Ash. We'll keep you updated." Keanu glanced at Buddy, his hands still resting on the dog's side. "We're going to make this right," he promised. "Not just for you, but for everyone they've hurt." He stayed by Buddy's side for as long as the clinic allowed, the bond between them stronger than ever. The once distant relationship of actor and animal had transformed into something far deeper, a partnership built on trust, loyalty, and love. Keanu knew that no matter what happened next, he would do everything in his power to protect Buddy. Hours later, as Keanu prepared to leave the clinic to give the staff space to monitor Buddy, his phone buzzed again. It was Hank. Operation underway. We'll update soon. Stay safe. Keanu stepped outside into the cool evening air, his mind racing. The weight of the day's events hung heavy, but one thing was clear. Justice was on its way, and he wouldn't stop until those responsible were held accountable. The streets of Brooklyn Heights were quieter now, the sun having set behind the city skyline. Keanu stood outside the veterinary clinic, staring into the distance. His thoughts were split between Buddy, still recovering inside, and the biker gang he was certain was responsible for the attack. The text from Hank lingered in his mind. Operation underway. Stay safe. Keanu couldn't just stand idly by. While he trusted Hank to handle the situation professionally, a part of him felt compelled to witness the operation. He hailed a cab and gave the driver the address for Iron and Ash, the biker bar where the gang had been gathering earlier. When Keanu arrived, he stayed across the street, blending into the shadows. From his vantage point, he could see the bar's neon sign flickering against the night sky. The rumble of motorcycles filled the air, and a group of leather-clad bikers loitered near the entrance. Their laughter and boisterous behavior cut through the night, but Keanu's focus was razor-sharp. Moments later, he heard the faint wail of sirens in the distance. His heart quickened as police cars arrived, their lights flashing silently. Hank's team moved with precision, officers exiting their vehicles swiftly and positioning themselves around the bar. The bikers outside were caught off guard, their cocky demeanor replaced with confusion and unease. Keanu watched as the officers approached, their commands clear and firm. Hands where we can see them. Step away from the entrance. The bikers hesitated, some raising their hands while others exchanged nervous glances. One of them, a burly man with a shaved head and the same tiger claw insignia on his vest, attempted to make a run for it. He didn't get far. Two officers tackled him to the ground, securing him in handcuffs. Keanu's eyes narrowed as he recognized the man. It was the same biker who had kicked Buddy at the cafe. Seeing him subdued brought a wave of satisfaction, but Keanu knew the operation wasn't over yet. Inside the bar, chaos erupted. Through the grimy windows, Keanu could see tables being overturned and patrons being corralled by the officers. The police were thorough, searching the premises for anything incriminating. After a few tense minutes, one officer emerged carrying a bag filled with small, unmarked containers. Another followed, holding what appeared to be a ledger. Hank stepped outside shortly after, his expression grim but resolute. He spotted Keanu across the street and gestured for him to stay put. Keanu nodded, respecting his friend's authority, but his curiosity burned. He wanted to know everything, what they had found, how it connected to Buddy, and whether justice would truly be served. As the last of the bikers were loaded into police vehicles, Hank crossed the street to meet Keanu. "It's done," Hank said, his voice calm but firm. "We found enough evidence to shut them down. Drugs, weapons, and even records of their activities. They won't be bothering anyone for a long time." Keanu nodded, his relief evident. "What about the guy who poisoned Buddy?" Hank's jaw tightened. "We've got him. He tried to resist, but we found traces of poison on his gloves and boots. It's more than enough to charge him with animal cruelty and attempted harm." Keanu's shoulders relaxed slightly, the weight of the day beginning to lift. "Thank you, Hank, for everything." Hank placed a reassuring hand on Keanu's shoulder. "You did the right thing calling me. You've got a good head on your shoulders, even when things get personal." Keanu nodded, his thoughts drifting back to Buddy. "I just want to make sure he's okay," he said quietly. "He didn't deserve any of this." "No, he didn't," Hank agreed. "And thanks to you, he's going to be okay. But you should get back to him. He's probably waiting for you." As Keanu made his way back to the veterinary clinic, he felt a sense of closure. The bikers who had harmed Buddy, and likely many others, were off the streets. Justice had been served, but the bond he shared with Buddy had been strengthened in a way he hadn't anticipated. When he arrived at the clinic, Dr. Harper greeted him with a smile. "Buddy's doing well," she said. "He's still a little weak, but he's stable and responding to treatment. You can sit with him if you'd like." Keanu didn't hesitate. He entered Buddy's recovery area and knelt beside the dog, his hand resting gently on Buddy's head. Buddy's tail wagged weakly, and he let out a soft whine of recognition. "Hey, boy," Keanu said softly. "We got them. You're safe now." Buddy's eyes shone with trust and gratitude, and in that moment, Keanu knew he'd made the right choices. This wasn't just about justice. It was about protecting the ones who couldn't protect themselves, whether on screen or in real life. The next morning, Keanu returned to the clinic at the first light of dawn. The streets of Brooklyn Heights were peaceful again, the chaos of the previous day now just a memory. As he entered the clinic, Dr. Harper greeted him with a bright smile. "Good morning, Mr. Reeves," she said. "I have great news. Buddy's condition has improved significantly overnight. He's responding well to the treatment and is showing all the signs of a strong recovery." Keanu exhaled in relief, the tension that had been gripping him for the past 24 hours finally beginning to ease. "Can I see him?" he asked. "Of course," Dr. Harper replied, leading him to the recovery room. When Keanu entered, he found Buddy lying on a soft bed, his tail wagging gently as he saw Keanu approach. The sight of his co-star and companion looking brighter than the day before brought a rare, genuine smile to Keanu's face. "Hey, Buddy," he said softly, kneeling down beside the dog. "You gave me quite the scare yesterday." He reached out to scratch behind Buddy's ears, and the dog leaned into his touch, his tail wagging, a little faster now. Dr. Harper stood nearby, watching the interaction with a smile. "He's a tough one," she said. "With a bit more rest and a lot of love, he'll be back to his old self in no time. We'll provide you with medications and a special diet to support his recovery." Keanu nodded, still focused on Buddy. "Thank you, Dr. Harper, for everything." As they spoke, Keanu felt Buddy nudge his hand with his nose, clearly asking for more attention. Keanu laughed, the sound light and filled with affection. All right," he said, ruffling Buddy's fur. "I'm not going anywhere." Later that day, after completing the necessary discharge paperwork, Keanu carefully guided Buddy out of the clinic. The dog moved a bit slower than usual, but his spirits were high, his tail wagging as he sniffed the fresh air. Keanu had arranged for a car to take them back to his hotel, ensuring Buddy wouldn't have to walk too far. Once they arrived at the hotel, Keanu set up a comfortable spot for Buddy by the large window, where the sunlight streamed in warmly. Buddy settled onto the soft blanket Keanu had laid out, resting his head on his paws, but keeping his eyes on Keanu as if to say, "I trust you." Keanu sat down beside him, his hand resting gently on Buddy's back. "You're not just my co-star anymore," he said quietly. "You're family now, and I take care of my family." The bond between them was unshakable now. Buddy had been more than just a dog for the film. He had become a companion, a source of loyalty and unconditional love that Keanu hadn't expected. The experiences they had shared over the past couple of days had deepened their connection, creating a relationship that would extend far beyond the set of John Wick. As the day progressed, Keanu received updates from Sheriff Hank Morrison. The biker gang's arrests had made headlines, and the evidence collected from Iron and Ash had solidified their case. The community of Brooklyn Heights could finally breathe a little easier. Hank had also ensured that Keanu's involvement in the operation remained confidential. For Keanu, it wasn't about the recognition, it was about knowing that justice had been served and that Buddy was safe. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Keanu sat beside Buddy, going over his lines for the next day's shoot. Every now and then, he'd glance at the dog, who was now dozing peacefully, and reach out to give him a gentle pat. The weight of the past day's events seemed to dissolve in the quiet companionship they shared. "You know," Keanu said softly, almost to himself, "I think we're going to make a pretty good team, on screen and off." Buddy's tail wagged slightly in his sleep, as if in agreement. Keanu chuckled, his heart lighter than it had been in days. Tomorrow would bring new challenges returning to set, adjusting schedules, and ensuring Buddy's continued recovery. But for now, Keanu was content to sit there, his hand resting on Buddy's back, knowing they had overcome the storm together. A week later, the John Wick set buzzed with activity as the production resumed. The crew had made adjustments to accommodate Buddy's recovery, rescheduling scenes to ensure the dog had plenty of rest. When Buddy finally returned to the set, he was met with cheers and applause from the cast and crew. It was clear that his near-death experience had left an impact on everyone, and his recovery felt like a shared victory. Keanu stood by Buddy's side, his hand resting on the dog's head as the crew welcomed them back. Buddy seemed to soak in the attention, his tail wagging happily as he moved through the crowd, accepting pats and scratches from everyone. "Looks like someone's become the star of the show," the director joked, clapping Keanu on the shoulder. Keanu grinned, his usual reserved demeanor softened by the joy of seeing Buddy healthy again. "He always was," Keanu replied, looking down at the dog. "I'm just the supporting act." The scenes they shot in the following days carried a new depth. Keanu's bond with Buddy was palpable, their connection translating effortlessly on screen. Every glance, every touch, every interaction was infused with the authenticity of their real-life relationship. The ordeal they had faced together had strengthened their trust, making their performances richer and more emotionally resonant. During breaks, Keanu would sit with Buddy, going over his lines or simply enjoying the dog's company. Crew members often remarked on how inseparable they had become. "He's not just your co-star anymore, is he?" one of them asked. Keanu smiled, his gaze fixed on Buddy. "No," he said simply, "he's family." As the weeks passed, life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be on a bustling film set. But for Keanu, something had shifted. His time with Buddy had reminded him of the simple joys of companionship, of the loyalty and love that a dog could offer. It wasn't just about preparing for a role anymore. It was about cherishing the bond they had built. After filming wrapped, Keanu made a decision. He approached the dog trainer with a quiet but firm request. "I'd like to adopt Buddy." The trainer, who had witnessed the bond between Keanu and Buddy grow over the weeks, wasn't surprised. "I think Buddy's already chosen you," he said with a smile. "He'll be in good hands." Months later, the premiere of John Wick brought rave reviews, with critics praising the chemistry between Keanu and Buddy. But for Keanu, the success of the film was secondary to the personal journey he had shared with his four-legged co-star. Buddy had come into his life unexpectedly, but their bond had grown into something unshakable, a reminder of resilience, loyalty, and the power of love. As the credits rolled on the big screen, Keanu sat in the theater, his hand resting on Buddy's head. The dog had been given a seat of honor beside him, and while Buddy didn't understand the significance of the moment, he seemed content just being by Keanu's side. "You did good, Buddy," Keanu whispered, leaning down to ruffle the dog's fur. Buddy looked up at him, his tail thumping against the floor. In that moment, Keanu realized that the story of John Wick, a man who would go to any lengths for his dog, wasn't just a role he had played. It had become a part of his reality, a testament to the lengths he would go to protect the ones he loved. As the lights came up and the audience applauded, Keanu and Buddy walked out together, side by side, ready for whatever adventures awaited them next. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please support me by clicking the logo in the bottom right corner to subscribe to my channel. This way you won't miss any of the exciting stories coming up. Thank you so much.